Hello, America. I am addicted to collecting national park cancellation stamps, and I've made it my goal to collect all 423. While I do so, I want to discover more about America through the lens of the national park sites and bear eyewitness to their history and geography beyond what a textbook could provide. Welcome to Route 423. In 2011, Albanian immigrant Din Kosova hauled cement and concrete into Joshua Tree National Park for years to build a monument to Woodrow Wilson. Why? After World War I, Wilson prevented the great powers from swallowing sections of Albania for themselves. To Albanians, he's a hero. Soon, even Americans were making pilgrimage to the sacred spot, even though most didn't know anything about Albania. So why did Mr. Kosova pick Joshua Tree as the site of his Albanian independence obelisk? When you first arrive in Joshua Tree National Park, it feels like you've taken a step onto Mars. There's a bizarre and desolate beauty to the place, about as brutal as it is fragile. Its unique nature provides one time to think, time to meditate, time to reflect. The park encompasses nearly 800,000 acres in Southern California across two deserts, the Western Mojave Desert and the Eastern Sonora Desert. The Joshua Tree, for which the park is named after, is actually only found in the Mojave section of the park, where the higher elevation allows a cooler and wetter climate. Adding to the park's otherworldly appearance is that the Joshua Tree itself is not even a tree. It's a giant yucca plant. In 1844, U.S. Army surveyor John C. Fremont wrote that it was, quote, the most repulsive tree in the vegetable kingdom. That's not fair to the Joshua Tree. I'm sure most people would also turn into a hairy, scrabbly, and stubby beast if they lived in the desert for 150 years. The Joshua Tree is, in my opinion, remarkable. Everything about it is economical, designed to live off the least water possible, and they've managed to corner the market and do well enough to turn Joshua Tree National Park into a sparse forest. Even more impressive than the Joshua Tree are the Joshua Rocks. Well, they aren't called that, but I have never seen more alien rock formations in my life. Piles of huge, sun-baked granite boulders dot the landscape, some large enough to be mountains. A few of these boulder piles, such as Skull Rock, even look suspiciously like sculpture. As it turns out, though, these rocks are not a giant's failed attempts at pottery. The granite you see today was once cooled magma forced up by seismic activity. Above this granite was a rock called gneiss. Granite can't really be eroded, but the gneiss certainly can. So when the gneiss pieced out after being slapped around by wind for a couple million years, the granite started to expand under the heat. As it expanded, it also cracked, forming rectangular blocks. Then water slithered into the cracks. It softened the granite into soil and rounded the corners of the blocks. The wind carried off the developing pockets of soil, leaving nothing but the boulders. What we're left with is a valley of rocks that make you feel small, like an adventurer lost on a planet where everything is twice its normal size. I wouldn't be surprised if the dinosaurs decided to actually stage their comeback at Joshua Tree. Human beings, on the other hand, are like a fart in the lifetime of Joshua Tree, but they have lived here too. It served as a seasonal home for the Chemehuevi and Mojave people, while the Serrano and Cahuilla people had more fixed dwellings. When Western settlers arrived, they immediately began squabbling over gold mines, homestead claims, and grazing rights, as Western settlers tend to do. The legacy of these are visible in relics like my favorite, the arastra, a primitive tool to grind gold. In an arastra, two stones were dragged across the ground in a circular pit covered in gold ore. The dragging stones ground down the ore and freed it from its surrounding rock. Usually they were pulled by a donkey or an ox, but eventually miners used steam and gasoline to power them. Arrastras are about as efficient as dial-up internet, but they are also a testament to the resilience of the miners. The book History of Joshua Tree National Park is exhaustive in their stories, and I highly recommend checking it out. Besides gold miners, Joshua Tree National Park also attracts a fair amount of artists and the garden variety of eccentrics that orbit them. The Eagles took their first album cover photo here. U2 liked the Joshua Tree so much they named an album after it. Most infamously, though, 70s country rocker Graham Parsons' bandmates kidnapped his body and tried to cremate it on park grounds, based on a request Parsons made that he wanted to be buried there. You should absolutely visit Joshua Tree National Park. Whether you come for musical pilgrimage or for the titular plant, the extraterrestrial beauty of the park will capture you. I urge you to embrace its freedom, silence, and charm.